Hey guys, so today I have a compilation for y'all and I really think that you're gonna like it. I got 3 stories about werewolves. One is an actual wolf and 2 are not actually werewolves, but what they do is pretty insane. And there's actually one case where they threw out all of the guy's testimony because it was so demented and too hard to read. It gets nuts. So we're doing a compilation video today. If you're new here, my name is Brandy and I like to do dark history episodes where I bring old history back to life and tell you these unknown stories of witches and werewolves and vampires and poisoners and all these things. And so today, like I say, we're going to be doing a compilation video, and these are always a lot of fun to do for me. What I do is at the same time I'm talking about the story, I put makeup on my face, and it's just to kind of keep me busy or whatnot, and then I just tell you guys the story. So if that sounds awesome to you, please hit that subscribe button, and let's go ahead and get into our first story, which is a little bit crazy. It's going to go from a little bit crazy to somewhat crazy to absolutely nuts. Okay, so you guys are going to enjoy this. So let's get this party started. So our first story begins in Germany in 1685. Okay, there was a lot of disturbing events that were happening in this place called Ansbach. Yes, I have a serious pimple on my face today, so we're just gonna let that sit there for a minute. Anyways, during this time in Germany, there was a lot of animals that were coming up like completely torn to pieces, okay? Like utterly and completely shredded. They would eat the limbs, and you would think it's a wild animal, but a lot of these, the heart was missing, which is what a lot of people were thinking were strange. And they weren't. And this wolf now, and this is a real live wolf in this one, a real animal wolf, okay? This wolf was going after people, was going after their livestock, was going after all this stuff. Like it was absolutely insane. And so the townspeople thought that who this was their previous mayor. Yeah, they thought that this, okay, now their previous little mayor guy was already dead. Yeah, he was. But they thought he was such a cruel leader when he was alive. They thought that he was like coming back from the grave to do this to them, okay? I'm sorry to laugh because, you know, I'm sure it was a very true feeling. And everybody was getting freaked out. They're like, it's got to be a man dressed up as a wolf, or it has to be a werewolf. Has to be lycanthropy. It has to be like a man that changes into a wolf. And that's why all this is happening and all this other stuff. And it's this guy, you know, it's our old mayor coming back from the dead, and he's trying to get us, and you know, all this other crazy stuff. And so they set up a search party, and they end up cornering this real live wolf. Now remember, this one is the actual animal wolf. They end up finding it and they corner it, but it ends up leaping into a well. They actually used, I think, a rooster to kind of get it to come out, you know, so that they could catch it, and they cornered it. Basically went on a werewolf hunt, is what you could say. And so the werewolf runs, and he's running away from the hunt party, you know, and he runs and jumps into a well where he's protected, but obviously he can't get out, right? And so the wolf ends up getting stuck in the well, and then the people in the town end up killing the wolf. So once they got this little werewolf in this, well, it's not a werewolf and it's not little, definitely not a little wolf. But once they got it cornered in the well, you know, they end up killing it and they pull it out of the well. Okay. So this is what they do with this wolf. It's so insane because they think it's their old mayor that's dead. This mayor has come back to life somehow as a werewolf and is killing people and killing their livestock. So they brought the carcass through town to kind of parade this carcass around, show everybody, you know, look what we caught it. We caught the werewolf, but that's not all that they did. They took the skin off of the wolf, okay? They took the skin off completely, and they dressed him up in men's clothes, this animal wolf, okay? And then they sliced off his snout and then made a mask of their old mare and like put it on the wolf, okay? And they would parade this thing and actually hung it up on like a pole. I'll show a picture down here. A pole where they just hung it up there as, you know, either a warning or, hey, we got the bad guy, we got that. Obviously the wolf was nuts, okay? But it was a real live wolf. And it evidently had some problems if it was attacking people and like attacking that much livestock. But at the same time, it's a wolf. This is not your mayor reincarnating, trying to come back and get you all, you know? But that's the way they treated it. And the thing now is they have it at a freaking, you know, on display. So they have it on display at the Ansbach little, I can't think of the word for nothing because popcorn just busted my concentration, but it was hanged from a gibbet for all to see. That's the name of that pole, that big pole thing, and was preserved for permanent display at the local museum, and it's still there to this day. This crazy wolf that was skinned and dressed up in men's clothing and put on a mask, and to reveal its evilness, to reveal the fact that they know that that's a man underneath that wolf's clothing or whatever, the wolf, you know, I mean, so that's the Wolf of Ansbach of 1685 in Germany, okay, where they dressed up a wolf in men's clothing and put a mask on it, and now it's in a museum. There's the word. It's in a museum for all to see, and it's pretty spectacular. So let's go ahead and go to the second story. So our next story is about a guy named Nicholas Damont. Okay, he was also known as the Werewolf of Chalons, the Tailor of Chalons, and the Demon Tailor of Chalons. Obviously, this man was a tailor. Okay, so and he had his own little shop. He had his own little workshop or whatnot, and somehow he would invite kids in to come to his little tailoring place. Maybe he gave them promises of, you know, clothing or, you know, something like that. Well, I'll give you a bunch of clothes, or I'll give you a jacket, some shoes, you know, maybe you could work for me. Maybe that's how he was luring them in. We're not really I'm not really sure, but that's what I'm imagining. He's probably getting these homeless kids off the street, trying to help them. And, you know, it is what it is. And what he ends up doing is he strangles these kids, cuts their throats, okay? Yeah, it's like, it's bad. And then he would consume their flesh. This was not a good dude. Nicholas is not a good dude, okay? So what happens? He ends up getting accused of hunting a child in the forest in the shape of a wolf first. That's where the werewolf part comes in on this. First, he was like in the shape of a wolf, and then he got caught red freaking handed, as human, of course, doing something, trying to do something to a kid like out in the woods, right? Well, that's not cool, you know. The authorities, they decided to search his shop, his little tailor shop that I told y'all that he had. And he said that the cops found dead bodies in the bottom of his tailor shop. Yeah, like children's bodies down there. And so because they thought he was hunting these kids at night or inviting them into his little tailor shop under the guise of maybe a job or some clothing or something, money, something, you know, that he had to have a reason to get these kids in there somehow. But he did. And so when the authorities searched his shop, they found human bones in the basement. Yes, they found bones, not bodies. I don't know why I said that. That's my bad. So, and then he confessed. This man confesses to all his crimes in court. All of them. Yes, all of them. But because they are so gruesome and they are so crazy. They destroy the court documents to this case so that nobody has to read just how crazy this man really and truly is, okay? Because he's a nut job, straight up nut job, all right? and so they erase everything that he testified in court to what he did, and it was so appalling that people that they were like, yeah, get rid of this. This does not need to be a part of history, like point blank period. Because this dude was messed up. I mean, he was even though he was living in Germany, he was a French guy. The werewolf thing really happened a lot with Germany and France. It really didn't happen anywhere else other than that. Maybe a few other places as I get down the line and I find some more stuff. But a lot of them happened in Germany and France. And this one's in Germany, but he's a Frenchman. Yeah, and he ended up getting sentenced to death, of course, for being a murderer, a cannibal, and being a werewolf, and for witchcraft as well. Of course, we got to throw in the witchcraft or whatnot. So, but when he was sentenced for murder and cannibalism and all that, he was burned alive at the stake. Now, while he was being burned alive at the stake, he was yelling out obscenities and all this crazy stuff and calling out for the devil. Yeah, this guy was very, very sick. Super sick dude. This is probably, I would have to say, this is definitely one of those ones that I full on support of them doing what they had to do. You know what I mean? With this guy, this Nicholas Damont guy. Because he was just this tailor dude. And evidently he had a weird, crazy issue, you know? I know that's a short story because, like I say, they took away all the stuff because it's so bad. The things this man did was so bad, but they charged him as a werewolf because one person thought they saw him as a wolf trying to snack on a child, basically. But the man was sick and he did need to be done. Maybe not burned at the stake, that's a little nuts, but that's what they did. And while he was still alive, of course, in Germany, they didn't play. No, they did not. Not like Sweden. Sweden is really sweet compared to Germany when we do witch hunts and things like that. But anyway, let's go on to the next story. The last one, the best one, the longest one, and it is intense. Just saying. So now we are on to Gilles Garnier. Yes, we're in France. Okay. He is also known as the Werewolf of Dole, the Hermit of Saint Bonnet. He was a French serial killer, cannibal, and hermit, and was convicted of killing at least 4 children. Okay, so let's talk about this man and what his deal was, okay? Now, he was already kind of a petty theft in the beginning. He had already been in trouble, like in the town of Dole, however you want to say that. I'm not sure, guys, because we're in France, and I never took French. Only French I know is like Creole. This Garnier guy ends up getting in trouble a few times for trespassing on people's properties, like being in places he's not supposed to be, you know. And then he ends up moving to Lyons, France, where he gets married. And of course, as one gets married, one has children if you, of course, choose so. And they did. Now, Gilles felt very, very uncomfortable because he was now having to provide for a wife. He was having to provide for children. It was no longer just him, you know. And it was a struggle. And we've heard this story before. If y'all have been watching, oh my God, I have like one of these hairs in my mouth. But if y'all been watching, we've talked about that before, about what these people will go through just to get food for their family. And so, but this guy goes above and beyond the call of duty. I mean, if it's true, okay? Because, like I say, this one's gonna be named as a werewolf and a witch as well, okay? So during this stressful time, children were going dead and found and just being, or missing completely. They were even finding children dead or they were missing during this time of supposed poverty for this Gilles guy. And so during this time, Also, most crimes were done by werewolves. Okay. I don't know what it is, but like I say, in France and in Germany, they were obsessed with lycanthropy there for a while. Like, obsessed. Everybody was a werewolf. If you weren't a witch, you were a werewolf. Or maybe you were both. You know? But that's the way it is. So anyway, it's a very stressful time for this dude. So, and he's a hermit. He doesn't really like to come out of his house very often. He's not a very social guy, you know? So he's not going to go out and get a job, evidently. So he decides to go about getting food a different way. So one evening, a group of workers were coming back from traveling from a neighboring town, and they saw what they thought was a wolf in the woods. And then they recognized this supposed wolf as not a wolf, but the hermit. Yeah. So they were like, and this hermit was attacking a child. They had kind of busted him like right in the middle of what he was doing. Oh yeah. And so they end up taking him in to court. Popcorn? I apologize for my dog, but that's just kind of where we're at today. So, but Giles, like I say, he gets arrested and he is tortured, of course, and they get a confession. So you got to kind of take this confession with a tiny bit, a grain of salt, okay? It could be true. It might not be true. We don't really know. But we will see. And you guys can tell me how you feel about it. So, he said this is his testimony. Now, this is going to be something I'm going to be looking down a lot because I'm going to have to read it, you know what I mean? Because I can't remember very well things. Anyway, so Giles goes to court and he starts talking. And he says, yeah, I did all these things and I'm a horrible person, basically, but no, I'm going to tell you what he says. So Giles said that he was hunting in the field in the forest at night, looking for some food for his family, because like I say, he was having trouble feeding his family. Yeah. He was a hermit type guy. He liked being by himself, and so I'm guessing he didn't really like, he wasn't one of those dudes that was like going to go out and get a job and stuff like that. He was just a hermit. That's just who he was. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you can hold your own. But evidently this man could not hold his own. So he was out in the woods looking for food for his family when this specter shows up. Yeah, this like specter of light offered him an ointment to ease his troubles by turning him into a werewolf so that he could hunt better. Yes, that's what happened. That's what I said. Yeah. Yeah. Gave him an ointment that would make him a werewolf, I guess, and that way he could hunt better for his family. And so he also confessed to stalking and murdering 4 children at the very least, between the ages of 9 and 12. This either happened in 1572 or 1573. They're not really sure when this happened, but we can guess it's around that time. Okay, so the first murder occurs before fall, around September 29th of that year. Okay, and he abducted a girl, and she was like 10 or 12 years old. Now this is what he's confessed to under duress. Okay, he strangled her, clothes off of her body, and then would snack on the flesh on her legs and arms. And then when he was done, he removed some to take home to his wife and children so that they could also have something to eat as well. That was the first thing that he admitted to. So now the second murder happens with Giles, he says. And he says that it was 8 days after the first one. So not a very long cool down period, you know. He was attacked. Then he attacked another girl. He bit and he scratched her, but people were kind of going by and interrupted what he was doing, and so he ran. But that girl ended up dying later on from her injuries that he had done to her. Yeah, like it must have been really bad. Really, really bad injuries. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine if you die from some person biting you and like trying to eat. And then his third one was in November, 2 weeks later from the second. And he killed a 10-year-old boy. He consumed the flesh from his thighs and belly and then tore off a limb to save as a snack for later. I'm not getting this up. Like, okay, I have questions. Hold on, before I get to the next one. I have questions, because it's like, if you're bringing food home to your wifey, and, you know, you don't think she's not going to notice that it's from a person? Especially if you're ripping off an arm, and you're like, here, honey, cook this up tonight. I got supper, you know, like, what? I'm just wondering why the wife never got charged, because if she supposedly took it, if he took home an arm, she'd be like, what are you doing, bro? Why is there an arm in my kitchen? So that's why I'm saying you got to take his confessions with a grain of salt, because he's also being tortured. Not saying he didn't do bad stuff, because he did bad stuff. He did. He just tried to make it sound like it was under the guise of the salve that he was using that made him into a werewolf that was given to him by the devil in the middle of the woods. Also, after he killed the boy, the one that he supposedly took the arm from, he tried to go after another kid that night, but he also got disturbed again amidst people and things like that walking by. And so, but he also he couldn't bite the boy before people were, you know, gonna notice. And so he actually abandoned that kid and just kind of left him. It was like, I'm not gonna do anything to that one, because there was just too many people around. So he tried to go for 2 kids in one night. Then a week later, he attacks another boy who's aged between 12 and 13 years old, okay? And where the victim was nearly, okay, this one's pretty rough. The victim was torn nearly in half with a lot of bites, and his belly was like torn open. So at this point, it seems to me like old dude is just becoming frantic. Like he has no control. He went from having some control, and then he left with none. Like he just couldn't help himself. So I believe that he was murdering these kids, but he's just trying to make up an excuse as to why, and trying to blame it on the devil or whatever. He could have just said that, you know, I'm just crazy, or, you know, something like that. So there's actually a 5th girl that they have also figured out. They strangled her. He strangled her, and villagers heard her screams. And that's how Gilles got caught, like mid-attack. Was they caught the girl, but the girl later died from her wounds. So what did they do? They put him in jail, of course. So we have like 50 people at the trial that are saying all the things that they witnessed. They're saying that he attacked and killed children in fields and in vineyards, and was devouring their flesh. And these are not good things. No, these are not good things at all to be accused of. But that's what ends up happening for old Gilles. He has a lot of people not really for him, obviously, because he admitted to all of these acts. And so sometimes they said they saw him in human form, and sometimes it would be in the wolf form. So he could be in either way. He could have just been dressed up in a certain type of way. But anyway, so his court was done by secular judges. Yes, it was. It was not done like through the court system like it should have been, but that's okay. The reason why the Inquisition people didn't take any interest in this case is because they didn't do cases that had to do with superstition. They didn't. They just, if it was superstition, then they left that to the church, I guess, to decide, because the inquisitors are smart enough to know that, you know, come on. You know, this is not real. This man's not really turning into a werewolf, you know. Even though that's what he's telling you, he's only telling you that because he's being tortured. He's being tortured. He's being tortured. I can't say it, I can't say it anymore. So anyway, what ends up happening, he's found guilty. And on January 18th of 1574, he is burned at the stake for lycanthropy and witchcraft. Okay, yeah. Now, after that, Garnier, both of those names, because his whole family was like, they just were named werewolves after that. Like a whole ass family. Because of Gilles. Like his son, his daughter, his kids, everybody thought that anybody with that last name, Garnier, was a werewolf. Point blank period. So old Gilles, like I say, he ends up getting the got. He gets got, yeah. And it's, I believe it's well deserved, because even though he was doing what he was doing, I still want to know though, why didn't the wife know anything? You know, if supposedly he was bringing home limbs to his wife to cook up for as a snack for later for the kiddos, you know, just in case they get hungry, here's an arm. Like, why wouldn't they put her on trial too? You know, because you're an accomplice, especially if you come home and there's a freaking arm on your table, and your husband's like, "Honey, I brought home dinner." You know, that's some weird Popeyes right there. Let me tell you. This poor dude. I mean, that's the one thing you gotta understand. These people will say anything to not be tortured, because I can't tell you, but since this is France, and France definitely had torture devices, I don't know how they tortured him, but they did, and it must have been pretty bad for him to come out and admit to that much stuff. Like, I'm still curious about the second trial, like what that guy did. That guy was sick. That guy was really messed up, for real. For a man to lure children to his shop, and we don't know what he did with them, I'm a little afraid to know, to be honest with you. I'm not at all upset that they destroyed what that man said at his trial, because I bet you it was crazy. And then for this whole town to think that this wolf, which was obviously, this wolf was off its rocker a little bit. I mean, or he could just been doing what he normally does, just hunt. But they took it as, this is our mayor that tormented us, coming back. You know what I mean? Like, popcorn has ruined today's episode. I'm so sorry. So we have all these wonderful stories today that I hope you guys really liked. I feel bad for the wolf, like in the first story, because that's just an animal, and then like to desecrate the animal and to take all of its fur and its snout off and to dress it up as a man, and now it's on full display in a museum. Like, make it make sense, but it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you, especially with the Gilles guy, that guy had some issues, and so did the other guy, but Gilles really was trying to feed his family, I think, and I think that he made up a bunch of stories just so they would stop torturing him. But I could be wrong. I have questions. Like, if he really did bring an arm or a snack home to cook for his family, why wasn't his wife aware? You know, it's not like they found bones in their house or anything like they did with the other guy. They found bones in his tailor shop, human bones. So they know that he'd been doing something crazy. And to have his whole entire interview wiped out is absolutely insane. But it makes sense though, because it's a really, really bad part of history. So basically today we had like 2 serial killers and a wolf. So I just thought that was a cool compilation. I hope that you guys liked it. I really enjoyed researching it, to be honest with you. I love researching these things, and I hope y'all are really enjoying the channel. Let me know if there's anything that you want me to go over in specific. I'll be glad to do that, because I love to do research on any and everything. But like I say, we are going to take some road trips across the state and see some Native American places. And we're going to do the deep dive on those histories as well. So stick around for that. But if you haven't subscribed, please do. And I love you guys. And I hope that you have a wonderful week and a wonderful weekend. So much love.